All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Mark of Balance. My name is Mark, and today I'm going to be bringing you another thoughts episode on Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 4, The Foundling. And this was probably my favorite episode of this season so far because I think it leans into all of the things that make The Mandalorian great and what I fell in love with in Season 1. It's a fun, self-contained adventure episode with some light ties to the movies and other pieces of Star Wars lore, without getting too complicated and too complex with all of the canon knowledge you have to bring to the table to understand what's going on the screen. And I can understand why some more casual viewers probably this season were like, okay, maybe this is a little too much going on. And even with last season, with all the different cameos, it might be overwhelming, but I really think Mando is strongest and why people fell in love with it when it's a self-contained smaller story that anyone, regardless of they're the biggest fan of Star Wars or they're just a casual fan that loves the movies, can sit down and just enjoy this episode. And overall, I didn't feel a lot of the writing flaws that were happening in the first couple episodes of the season. I feel like this was the first episode where I was like, okay, no gripes with any lazy or uncreative writing. So I usually do these thoughts episodes by talking about the big moments or the things that I really connected with, but for this one, I'm just going to go in chronological order of what happened in the episode because I think it's a well-structured episode and I should just follow the roadmap that it's given me. So we open with the Mandalorians training and they're firing all these live rounds into the lake, and the first thing I said was like, dude, no wonder the freaking crocodile turtle came up and tried to eat you guys. All the wildlife is like, what the hell is going on? You're just firing live rounds into the lake. They're like, Jesus Christ, can you guys relax? So that makes total sense why that crocodile was pissed in the first episode. But the real big point of this scene was finally seeing Grogu training as a foundling. He's always been called a foundling in name only. He hasn't really been training and learning that Mandalorian way that they're always preaching, and Din is trying to teach him about. And this episode did a great thing where right when I asked the question, I'm like, wait, so why doesn't Grogu have to wear a helmet if everyone else does and he's a foundling? And immediately when I said that, Din is like, he doesn't wear a helmet because he's too small and he hasn't spoken the creed yet. I'm like, okay, great. I'm having a conversation with Pedro Pascal. This is a dream come true. Thank you so much for that clarification. But I do think that there is something deeper to talking about Grogu wearing a helmet because for me, I don't think he's ever going to wear a helmet. I think he will eventually take the creed, but I think the creed is going to eventually change. It's going to have to evolve where helmets can be removed. Similar to how the Jedi ways have to change with attachments and accepting attachments. It was very rigid, like you can't have any attachments. But as we've seen with Qui-Gon, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan, you can have these attachments. You just have to control your emotions. And I think the same thing's going to happen with the way of the Mandalore. Attachments are such a big part of the show. We see Din and Grogu at the end of season 2, he takes off his helmet and there's that physical touch. And that's really powerful. And that type of attachment, I think, is somewhat taken away when you're always wearing a helmet. So I think eventually, this is just my theory, that like the Jedi ways, the Mandalorian ways are also going to have to change. And the helmet will not be required to be worn all the time. One, because Grogu wearing a helmet, I think would be silly. And I just don't think it's ever going to happen. But on a deeper level, on a more theologic level in Star Wars lore, I think it would make sense that the Mandalorian creed will have to change. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it would be a really great way to wrap up the story or at least leave that mark on Mandalorian lore as a whole. So Din throws Grogu right into the fire and says, line up, we're going to start shooting each other with blasters. I want to see you train with a blaster. And I was so excited to see Grogu with a gat in his hand, just a big blaster, just holding it, and it's bigger than him. But they gave him this little like wrist rocket thing, which honestly I was surprised it fit on his wrist, but it looked so funny when he put it on. He's like, what the hell is this thing, looking up at Din, and Din's like, you got this, you got this. And he does this thing where he does a flip over and then back over the kid twice, doing a very Yoda-esque move, and he shoots the kid 3 times in a row, and everyone's like, damn, and the guy's like, winner. So I really enjoyed Grogu having this development this season. I think it's really great from the Mandalorian side, but then we get in the next scene his more Jedi side where we see him go through this PTSD trip while the armor's talking to him and forging him a new piece of Beskar. Also, the kid in the last scene gets grabbed by a dragon. So this planet has crocodile turtles and dragons why the hell are we still on this planet? This enclave is small enough. I think we need to move, guys. We need to move and not be on the planet that is literal hell on Earth. They have every type of terrible monster on this planet. Why are we still here? Who knows what the next monster could be? But anyway, we have Grogu's trauma-filled flashback that comes back to him, again, making him more of a character, seeing him struggle, seeing him look down, his ears droop like he remembers that day when Order 66 goes down. And I think it's just a really powerful thing to show that even a kid can go through that type of PTSD or trauma. It's very hard to watch it in some degree. I mean, Ahsoka, she has that trauma as well, but she was molded by it. But Grogu really had that one terrible experience, and he's still a child. Even though he's 50 years old, he's still a child at heart and in his mind. So the big thing that happens in the flashback, we finally get a little bit more after that scene that we initially saw in the flashbacks of Order 66 from Grogu's perspective. We see a new Jedi come to save the day, and I am so ashamed to admit that when Ahmed Best came on screen, I didn't immediately recognize him. I knew the actor. I'm like, I know who this is. Why is it not coming to me? And when I found out after the episode, I had the biggest smile on my face. I have loved this trend that Star Wars is doing with bringing back actors who had previously played roles that maybe they didn't get the shine that they deserved. Of course, we just got Andy Serkis in Andor with Kino Loy, who was brilliant. And now Ahmed Best playing this sweet two-bladed lightsaber Jedi who ends up saving Grogu. And just on a personal level, seeing Ahmed Best get that love and recognition now after what he went through, I still do not get the whole hate behind Jar Jar Binks. I think at the time it was a scapegoat thing where Phantom Menace wasn't what people expected at the time. It was before the internet. And when they tried to find ways to tear down the film, because we have to admit, Darth Maul is sweet, pod racing is sweet, Qui-Gon Jinn is sweet, the battle on Naboo is sweet. There's a lot of sweet things in that movie, and I think it's aged excellently. But I think at the time they looked for a scapegoat, and unfortunately Jar Jar was the easy target because he was so weird and out there, and I can understand why people might think he's annoying, but I just never understood the visceral hate. But that's just the world we live in. That's just the internet, unfortunately. But I love that he has this moment, and he kicks ass. It's awesome. The escape scene is fantastic. We get to see more live-action clones, not just the 501st, but we also see some Coruscant guards, and those are always glorious to see in live action. Not CGI'd like the prequels, but live-action clones. And it was a nice callback to Attack of the Clones. We're racing through the streets or the air of Coruscant, weaving through buildings, through train stations. That was really awesome. And it was such a nice touch that the Jedi in this scene is friends with Naboo military police, and a Naboo starfighter is there. Of course, Ahmed played Jar Jar. Jar Jar's from Naboo. So I think that was a really nice nod to his old character, and they stay behind and save the day, and he gets out of there, and it was just fantastic. So I'm hoping we see more of him. Of course, I believe these flashbacks will continue throughout this season, and how Grogu eventually gets captured by the pirates. Maybe the Empire knows about the pirates, and that's why the Empire gets involved and hires Din in the end. And maybe those same pirates that we saw at the beginning of the season are the original pirates that captured Grogu. Maybe that will come full circle, but who knows? This sequence was fantastic. And in the end, the armor gives Grogu some more Beskar drip. He's got this huge shield now on his front with the rhino thing on it, like Din has, and it just looks like a huge chain that he has from like the early 2000s. And I absolutely love that he has chainmail, and now he just has this huge chain in the middle of his chest. And, hopefully that will save his life in the future. But I really, really loved this Grogu aspect of the episode. He felt more like a character. He felt like he's evolving, and round of applause to Ahmed Best. It was awesome seeing him again on screen. So then we move back to the Dragon storyline, where Bo leads the charge to get the kid back. Whether it's to gain favor among the group or there's genuine concern for her is still up in the air, but I do like that they're keeping Bo's true intentions mysterious, especially by the end of the episode, but I'll talk about that a little later. But what I liked about this portion was just seeing a Mandalorian squad rolling out with all their personalized designs. I saw the one had like race stripes up the side over their eye. That was really cool to see. And I'm hoping in the future we get some more tactical missions with the Mandalorians either taking out the Empire or the pirates. I just want to see them going against another faction and not just scaling a mountain to get to a dragon's nest. So I think we'll definitely see that in the future, but it was a nice introduction to that type of feel of an episode. And I think there was a really cool piece of lore that was added here when they're all around the campfire talking about eating food, and Bo-Katan's like, okay, so like, how do I take off my helmet? How do I eat? And Din's basically like, oh, we all spread out, find a corner, and we eat. We could take off our helmets so no one sees. And Paz Vizsla comes up and he's like, well, you're leading the charge. You're the leader. You get to stay by the fire and everyone else has to go away. I thought that was a really cool nod and kind of gives that backstory as to the hierarchy and the respect of warriors between warriors in Mandalorian culture. So I thought that was a nice little nod of something we hadn't heard before. So I really dug that. But we did think it was funny, me and my roommate Kevin, when we were watching, we were like, wouldn't it be hilarious if Bo's like, oh, okay, takes off her helmet, starts eating, and they jump back out and they're like, we lied, you're an idiot. I can't believe you took it off that easily. You're out of the club. I thought that would have been so funny, but obviously we have to be very serious. This is a cool lore moment and we take it as is. But in the back of your mind, I hope you were all thinking the same thing if they just pranked the hell out of her. So after we get some rope climbing up to the top of the mountain, they find 3 baby dragons, of course, like little birds, and I thought it was very convenient that this dragon had taken the kid the day before and somehow they slept overnight and the dragon still never came back to the nest. So whether that dragon was visiting his other wives in other nests around the world before coming back here, I don't know. I just thought that was a little convenient that the dragon took like a day and a half to get back to the nest. So regardless, that's a nitpick. I'm not going to drag on that, don't worry. But anyway, the air fight was really cool. I like how they shoot the Mandalorians in action with their jetpacks. They do these quick zoom ins, and usually I would think that'd be super jarring with the shaky cam, but they actually do a really good job of focusing on the Mandalorians without making it really disorienting. And they jump between them, and it looks really cool. You get that kind of Iron Man type of vibe, but with these cool ass Mandalorians. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, wait, Mark, you said you don't like Monster of the Week episodes, and I know, guys, I'll tuck my tail between my legs. I get it. I don't know. The Mandalorian kind of does it well. It's a lot of fun, and it also had that Jedi aspect to this episode that I really held on to. But I'll agree. The Monster of the Week thing was cool. Even though I don't think it was a huge part of the episode. I think in the grand scheme of things, the actual monster battle was like a very, very short 4 or 5 minute window. So I'm still not off the hook, but I also think I'm justified in liking this Monster of the Week episode. So put your torches and pitchforks away. But in the end, Din ends up saving the day. He gets the kid back, and Paz Vizsla, it was his kid. He eventually said, like, thank you for saving my kid. This is the way. And I think that's obviously foreshadowing that this will come back around, and Paz Vizsla will eventually either save Grogu and die, or just save Grogu, and Din will then be even with Paz Vizsla, and they'll have that mutual respect, which I think will be really cool. So we're going to see where Paz Vizsla goes. They're definitely showing him a lot. They're definitely building him up. So I think there will be something big with him in the future. So as I mentioned a little earlier, the end of this episode surrounds Bo finally revealing to the armor that she saw the mythosaur on Mandalore in the living water, and that she wants the mythosaur signet on her shoulder piece that she's getting forged because she lost one. So again, on one hand, she's no longer hiding the secret from everyone, but on the other hand, the way she asked for putting the signet on, she's like, can I put the mythosaur on? It made it seem like she's getting it just so she might have a claim to the ownership or basically dibs on the mythosaur. I guess if you're wearing that signet, it might be more likely that you are chosen to ride the mythosaur or claim the mythosaur or whatever it is. But I do like how they have that back and forth in the scene. You're like, okay, well, she's not hiding a secret anymore, but she's also doing this for selfish reasons, I still feel, because she's getting the signet out of nowhere. And the armorer's response is hilarious because she's like, oh, you saw the mythosaur? Yeah, no, of course, it's real. We believe in ancient Mandalore. We believe in the creed to a T. Of course the mythosaur's down there. What, you were surprised by that? And it really emphasizes this difference in philosophy. This group, this enclave of Mandalorians believe in the creed and Mandalore with complete faith. while Bo believes only things when she sees them, like with the Darksaber and now with the Mythosaur. Again, really cool scene with some thematic undertones, and I really enjoyed it. And the Armor is such a cool character. She's so great, and I really like when she has these type of speech moments where she talks about Mandalore or the old ways or what your future should be. I think it's really cool. She's this kind of balance of a Jedi type of character in a Mandalorian setting. So again, we don't know Bo's intentions here. She's playing good guy, but she might just be playing good guy to gain favor and build herself up to eventually take the throne of Mandalore. So we'll see. I like this episode. I like where the season is heading now. I think this was overall the strongest episode, the most cohesive, the most Mandalorian feeling episode. And I think everything they did here worked really well. So those are all my thoughts. Thank you guys again for listening. I want to hear your thoughts on The Mandalorian. Do you like the direction of this season? Does this season feel a little scattered where we're here, then we're there, then we're focusing on the past, and then we're focusing on the future? What are your thoughts on Mandalorian Season 3 so far? I've enjoyed the last 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes were kind of hit and miss in moments, and I think there was still that lazy, uncreative writing around the IG-11 and the R5 storyline. But let's talk about it. Follow me on Instagram at @star_wars_mark of balance. Love talking Star Wars, obviously, so let's talk some Star Wars. Don't be afraid to reach out and let me know what you think. So, as always, thank you guys so much for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and may the Force be with you. Peace.